Good evening, everybody. How are you? Great to be with you. Welcome back to the Brian Escow Show. Let me warn you, this is going to be a really weird, truly very weird, and pretty dark, unfortunately, but as light as possible for sure episode. I'm going to be talking about NHI, which is a buzzword if you're swimming in the algorithm that I'm swimming in, even if you're not, frankly. Let me even be more fair to myself and more realistic. And it's just sobering. This phrase is getting in pop culture. The testimonies on Congress, Representative Luna going on Joe Rogan, who I'll talk about in a minute. Congressman Tim Burchett, funny guy, great, seems like a great guy. People are talking about this. The mainstream, it's going mainstream, right? And we have to consider why, and that's part of what I'm doing. But what I'm going to be doing is talking about what is meant by this phrase non-human intelligence. I don't know, I'm not an expert on any of the theories I'm going to put forward, but I'm just going to report to you what I'm finding out, and it's freaky and it's unsettling. Some of them are unsettling for sure. They're all unsettling, but um look, there's a range of theories, right? And they all sound very crackpot to someone who walks around thinking that they have tremendous certainty about the totality of truth and what's going on. And part of the reason I started the podcast and is kind of inherent into my personality is to question and to think deep. And a lot of the times, you might say as a kid and a young adult, was almost head in the clouds too much, right? So I understand I have that disposition, and I think there's certain people who are going to be thinking about deep things, and other people who really don't, and that's perfectly fine. For example, I took when I was in community college prior to going to Rutgers, prior to then going to law school many years after that. But in community college, I took a course on ancient mythology, and I loved it. You know, doing all the creation myths for the various cultures, and so I've always eaten this stuff up. Ancient Aliens, like, love it for sure. So open to kind of mind expanding theories, you might say, or certainly was one of those types of people. And so, yes, this episode is going to be exploring, is it just a matter of in the internet age, crap is going to go through and eventually touch the mainstream a little bit? Or is there something? You got the Age of Disclosure coming, the movie that just came out. I mean, you don't have to be paying attention. You basically have to be living under a rock not to feel, I think it's fair to say, to feel this movement. There's something happening. And the question is it just a preview? Because I'm going to do a quick warm up before this is a preview of the meat of the episode. I'll backtrack after I give you this. But basically, is it secret human tech, which is just being used which is obviously being suppressed because of the moneyed interest? That would be the simplest explanation. Occam's razor says that should be given deference. That's comforting. Okay. But there's things that make us sway from that. But ultimately, we need to hold on to Occam's razor. And so that explains a lot of it. That's one theory, right? The secrecy, the flying objects, the UAPs, as they're called now. Always time for a sip of tea, even when discussing ontologically shocking topics. But it seems like there's a push for some sort of disclosure, and one of the reasons they say is because it's ontologically shocking. And so the fear is that it's not just a money issue, but that the world is very different than we've been led to believe it is. Because if it's not that it's just secret human technology, then all of the different categories, and again, I'll give you a rough estimation of them. I'm just a average Joe what do you call it? Consuming them, and maybe I should stop. I'd like to stop. I'm almost at my Tucker Carlson point. I'm gonna tell you about a nightmare I had, which is I'm going to be open about that. And look, Joe Rogan talked about his dream, and that doesn't mean I should go do it, right? If Joe Rogan jumped off a bridge, would I? But I'm going to make a decision to share with you a freaky, freaky nightmare that I had recently that is very related to all of this for whatever it's worth. And I'm going to open up about so you get a glimpse into my psychology. Um, I think I'm a healthy guy. I'm not saying I'm perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Um, in terms of health, mentally, physically, all, but I think I'm rational and sane. Okay. And yeah, the other theories are all strange. Okay. And some are doubly strange and some are super strange. And some of them are dark. So there's that. And then, by the way, so again, this podcast was always a search for truth in politics and economics and society. So, do you see how this is relevant? A search for identity as humanity, as humanity. Search for identity. That's what this is all about. So, I hope you get the tie-in. Yes, the podcast is no longer called "Searching for Political Identity." I wanted to broaden the net, but also retain the essence of the effort. Okay. In addition to this disclosure stuff and NHI related to UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon. Okay, you're with me now, normies. If you're just a boomer or something, and you don't know anything about alternative podcasts, alternative media, conspiracy theories. Are you with me now? We have a rough idea of what I'm about to get into. Also, there's these conspiracy theories, if you will. Let's call them that for now. Let's just call it alternative theories of reality, such as that we're going to have some cataclysmic event. And you talk to Grok and say, what are the probabilities of a cataclysmic event by 2100? And they're non, they are not nominal. Okay. It's a roll of the dice, according to Grok. So I think we just take our existence for granted sometimes. And some people are predisposed to kind of think about things and go, well, is it a lock that we're just a evolving species with no exterior external intervention, whether spiritually or physically? Is that a lock? This strictly materialist view. I remember being also in community college, I think, doing a psychology course, and I just remember asking the question. I don't remember really what I said in the paper, what my position was, but thinking about consciousness. And this is supremely relevant. So I'm glad I brought this up. This whole age-old debate: what is consciousness? Does it come from here? Is this just receiving the consciousness? Um, is it generated from the organ, the brain? What is the brain's role in creating this experience of consciousness? So that becomes very relevant into some of the theories. So you have this kind of concern about, and then you start swimming in the algorithm, and then you're out of luck, right? So I got to think, I got to clean up my algorithm. First, it was pet grief because I kept commenting and liking on people and giving my condolences for people who lost their pets. It's just, but it's like, I don't want to see that all day. And now I'm into the UAPs. And final thing before I backtrack and give you kind of a little 2 to 3 minute lighthearted life update, and then get back into this. I guess I'll just say, well, I lost my train of thought. Whatever. So algorithm. Hmm. I don't remember what I was going to say. Sorry. All right. So to backtrack, happily married for 4.5 weeks now. What an amazing time in my life. Things are going very well at work. Things are going very well personally. I mean, shit. I feel like I'm maturing, really. You know, better late than never. Um, I like to say, I don't like to say, but I sometimes say, like, I kind of took the last train. I got the last train out of going down a bad path. My wife is like 7 years younger than me. She's a true angel, and Everything is just way better than I never imagined things would be this good. So, so blessed, so grateful. All right. That's where I'm coming from. So my wife, for my birthday, which was on the 20th of November, also share a birthday with my dad, with Joe Biden. I learned in recent history. Also, Erica Kirk. Who else? Some random guy that follows me on X. Also, probably one or two other people. We went out to dinner on my birthday. I'll be honest with you. I don't want to kind of rub it in your face that we're doing okay. Like we're so happy to report. Like we're definitely getting by. We're both employed. We don't have kids. We're kind of in a space where we can go out to dinner. We did. We had a nice dinner, and then she also got me tickets to Louis C.K. So we saw Louis C.K. Actually, did you know he's like writing now a novel now? And so I bought for $35. He signed the front cover or the front page, whatever. It's cool. Not in front of me. They were selling them, of course, at the show, and the guy said, "Oh yeah, he came in the bookstore earlier today and signed." And I thought that was sweet, $36, and I'll read it. It's a novel called Ingram, like the former running back Mark Ingram. All right, but this guy Mike Vecchione opened for Louis. I guess he's been on Rogan. Super quick aside, I like Rogan a lot. I respect him. I think he's the man. I don't watch a show. I don't watch really hardly any podcasts. Jesse Michaels. I've been tuning into UAP episodes here and there, and I can give you names, and I will later about who I'm been checking out and what their motives are and what the motives of their guests potentially are. But I don't listen to Joe Rogan. Like I think he's the man. He's like the coolest, one of the coolest guys in the world. Totally respect him. He's been on Joe Rogan, I guess, so he's kind of known, somewhat known. This guy, Mike Vecchione, it was the funniest set I've ever heard. I mean, and yes, I'll tell you about Louis in a second. And Louis was everything you could have wanted and more. But Mike Vecchione fucking killed it. He was so funny. I guess he was just so I want to say that. And then Louis comes on, and Louis was, yeah, look, he was dark, he was deep, and he was brilliant, and he was hilarious. It was dark, and I'll tell you one thing. Look, it was awesome, but it was dark in the sense of like, Louis, he's going into human nature, he's going deep into the psyche, and he's touching it, and he's reporting all. He's an honest, it's a comedian, and so you get the good and the bad. It was so brilliant, and I got to say, it was so perfect of a concept for me to see while processing this UAP stuff, NHI stuff. Because Louis, one of the themes of the show, I will say, is the concept of consciousness. And he has this one joke where he says, every time he's like, I like boneless chicken, uh, skinless, boneless chicken breast, boneless, skinless, whatever. Whatever reason, that's what I like. He goes, and every time I take the thing out of the tray, I see this nasty tray with the residue of the meat and the juice, and everyone knows this. It's like nasty, right? And basically, his joke was, that's my reminder that we're not living in the matrix, that we're actually in reality here with each other. Because if we were living in a matrix, that wouldn't exist. That shitty, annoying, pisses you off every time you got to deal with it, Trey. And by the way, when he told the lead up to the punchline, he didn't say it's an aggravating thing. He was actually kind of grateful. He's like, that thing, it catches my attention every time I encounter it. That's what his lead up was. And then he goes, that's our reminder that we're living in reality. So interesting. So we saw Louis. It was an amazing experience. I was dying the whole night. What a blessing. Yeah. So do I have any other lead up? No, that's it. Let's get right into the stuff. I won't drag it out. I've kind of touched upon a lot of it already. So, real quick, the why. the why. I have one note here. Why discussing the NHI theories, um, and the corollary little note that I have next to it is um, this conversation I had with this guy who I've told my audience about a million times. My wife would get so annoyed if she stopped listening to my podcast. She's been busy. She's been my biggest fan, and she always used to listen to everyone. Which I was like, please don't do this to yourself. But she's just that kind of person. But so she's not up to date, fortunately. So, but she gets annoyed. She's like, "Why are you telling the same story?" I'm like, no one listens. If I gain a listener, it's a miracle, and that's my no. So just kidding, just kidding. We have a few. There's a few of you out there, and thank you all. I was gonna say thank God, but I don't know. I'm feeling I don't want to be like a cavalier with saying thank God because we're about to touch upon deep stuff, and I'm deeply, profoundly, um, frankly, I think I know a believer in God. So this stuff is not stuff means okay, you feel me? All right. So the why, and these are stories I've told. This conversation I had with this guy who I'll call Bob. Wish there was someone here to remind me to do what I say I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you about that. I guess I have no. Ooh. I've got Bob. I've got my personal sighting that I had with a UAP, which just, I mean, took the generic interest that was brewing and it just overdrive. And as I've said before, like I don't want this. I don't want to have any more experiences. I pray that I don't. I swear to you, I pray that I don't. But I had one. I'll tell you about it. Um, so the conversation with Bob, the sighting I had, the Joe Rogans of the world, most popular podcast in the world, interesting guy. And there's a reason he's so popular. And look, I mean, this is an important guy at this point. Okay. Like he's having like all the brilliant people come on, not all, but he's a big deal. And incredible people come on his show, even though I'm sure kooks and comedians do too. So obviously they do. And spooks, by the way, CIA people who deliberately want to mislead, by the way, for those of you who are in the back. So there's all of that. But people are talking about this kind of stuff, and Joe Rogan, I think it's fair to say, kind of spawned a million podcasts. I'm sure. Well, he wasn't really an influence on me, but of course, I would say Howard Stern was the influence that maybe I should do. I could do that. But Joe certainly. I mean, paving the. I mean, are you kidding me? Like, not worship, not really worship, but obviously, I don't worship him. But Joe, thank you for doing that. Right. He blazed a trail for many people, including this guy, Jesse Michaels, who hosts a really popular podcast called American Alchemy. And he's doing so many guys have splintered into the niche kind of focusing purely on where Joe will have a million people on talking about a million things, but he likes the kooky stuff too. These guys will have only kooky UAP guests on and they'll really drill into the topic. And so these are really good people drilling in onto these conspiracy fringe theories, but in an academic and rigorous way, and the results are here we are. Okay. So it's swimming in the pop culture is my point from before. All right, let me get on with this thing. I don't want to run this. I don't want to go for another hour. All right. No, I do. I understand if you're listening, you probably get to the point already. But beyond those whys, why am I talking about it? The things I just listed. The deeper why is, I guess I already touched on it, is it relates to identity and it relates to this concept. So whether it's the mundane truth about secret human tech, whether it's not, on some level, I am one of these people who want to search for truth. But I want to temper that. I get at the same time, you got to reach a point where you go, shit, is the truth scary? And if it is, do I still want to know? All right. So with that wind up, I have the order here. I just have the roughest sketch of things I might say. For example, it says Vecchione, Louis C.K. Why discussing different NHI theories? The Nightmare, Lavonda interview, uh, the PTSD from the nightmare and then the theories. So I guess I'll go in that order, and I guess I'll tell you about my nightmare now. I wonder if it makes sense to tell you the nightmare after. I think maybe I'll hold off on the nightmare. Nah, fuck it. I'll just go in the order that my subconscious wanted. All right. So these okay. Remember I said I wish I had someone to remind me to do the things I do? First, I got to tell you really, really quick this conversation I had with a guy named Bob. Okay, about a year and a half ago at this point, he is a friend of my then girlfriend's. She wasn't even my fiance yet. We had a kind of a quick relationship development. About a year and a half ago, we're having dinner in La Jolla at this really chill, nice little restaurant. Alexa and I are looking at the ocean. It's kind of interesting and relevant. And Bob and his girlfriend are facing us. They were there late, so we got the better view. And we're outdoors, and we have 2 drinks with dinner. And I throw out, they're super cool, super cool. We're having a great time. Bob, it turns out, is an aerospace engineer, machine learning data scientist working for an aerospace defense contractor. We're in San Diego. And Bob tells me, yeah, I'm actually in the process of transferring to a 3-letter agency with me, and I'll be moving to Virginia in a couple months. And he did do that. And I assume that's what he's doing. And I know that's what he's doing. They've since broken up, unfortunately, the couple. Anyway, so Bob, I go, okay. After 2 drinks, I go, Bob, aliens, kind of generally interested in this. This content is finding me now that I'm online. I wasn't online really, actually, thank God, for so many years. By the way, I was just stuck in my guitar, uh, in my room, playing music, writing little songs, hiding from the world in so many ways for the longest time. Law school took me out of that. Working at the same time, law school took me out of that, and then I started the podcast, just having like 4 different conversations here. And I said, "Well, kind of tracking this alien stuff. Am I crazy for thinking that they might be here, that it's real and that they're here?" And he said, "You're not crazy, and there'll be more I can tell you in 2026." Not totally serious. Um, then actually his girlfriend brought up the fact that they had been traveling at some point they were in a plane and they saw something spectacular, something circular emerging from the ocean. That was the only detail I remembered from what she said. But so, frankly, my jaw was on the floor when he said that. When he said, "You're not crazy, and there'll be more I can tell you in 26." And so that was one thing. And then not about, let's see, it's so 7 months ago. So on March 4th of this year, Tuesday, at 5:15 a.m., I'm walking my dog Rosie for what we call a small loop around the neighborhood, the apartment complex, and it's still dark out, completely dark out. Moon's well, we come down the stairs, we do 2 little turns. The first half, if you will, of this short loop is on the interior road of the apartment complex, and then you get to a point where you come to one of the entrances and exits for the property, and it spills you onto the main road. And so you make that right, you can walk the sidewalk, takes you to the next light, you make the right back into the property, and you complete your loop. So we've got the apartment building to our right, Rosie and I, and we exit the property and we make that right. And now we're on the sidewalk. And basically, as I'm making that right, I'm on the sidewalk. My phone's in my hand. It's not in my pocket, it's in my hand. I always got my phone. For whatever reason, I look up and the sky. So no longer do I have a building obstructing my vision. It's just pure black sky. You got the taco shop, the strip mall right across the street. You got the road right in front of me, the apartment complex to my right, essentially. You got the moon hanging in the background, maybe a couple stars, right? But you definitely saw a nice big moon. Close. It was like a nice fuller moon. And I kid you not, guys, you wouldn't even believe your brain doesn't believe it because it's not supposed to be possible. It's from a video game, right? Over the top of the apartment complex, going from I guess it would be east to west, certainly toward the ocean, not far from the ocean. Um, an aircraft comes over the apartment building, about the height of a helicopter. Um, when I used to tell the story, I would say, "Oh, it was like 1 to 2 helicopter distances from the ground." Now that I think about it, it really was just like a helicopter distance off the ground. What was it you asked? What did I see? What did this craft look like as it emerged into my view? Because remember, I just for no reason I looked up. I just by the way, I have the app, stargazing app, and I frequently at a time like that, I would pull it out and look. It's probably what I was gonna do, but I didn't have the app open yet. But I look up. I'm one of these people, right? And streaking, it was fast. No, it was moving quickly, silent. About a helicopter off the ground. It was a just an orange circle, a bright orange ball, a bright orange energy shield, a bright circle of orange plasma. It was just an orange glowing thing about the size of, it was much bigger than, from my perspective, the moon was. It was a circle. Here we have an orange object glowing. It was like someone you were in a PDF editor and you had a black sky, a black background, and you just drew an orange circle. It's- That's what I saw. And it's very much a real object going east to west. Like I said, no sound, pretty low to the ground. Fairly not huge, but not tiny. It was like a kind of a big orange ball, medium sized orange ball. And well, I'll tell you what it did. I saw it for a total of 30 seconds. Let me just spit it out. I saw it for about a total of 30 seconds until it disappeared out of view into the horizon. But it wasn't a static orange ball the entire time. Over the about 30 seconds that I saw it, it went through basically 15 cycles. 2 seconds with the orange shield up, the orange energy shield. And then, so I'm looking up and this thing's coming in here, and your brain goes, pumpkin? Your brain goes, what? Your brain goes, no, right? It's just incoherent image. But you're stunned and you're looking at it. And no, you're not going to take your phone out to record. You're stunned. The bright orange ball after 2 seconds just totally turns off. Like the shield, someone pushed a button and said, take the shield down. And the craft continued to fly. But what I saw instead when the shield was down was, well, really only thing I saw was three circular lights in the shape of an equilateral triangle against a black object, which the black object itself was indistinguishable from the sky. So I can only assume it was a triangular craft. And then, what? And then the shield comes back on, just like it was. Bright orange balloon, circle, orb, ball. And then three lights again. And it did that 15 times as it went towards the ocean. So there was that. And yeah, like I said, these podcasters, it's kind of going mainstream. It's on the news, man. It's not quite to the point where my mom and dad are hip to it. If I don't bring it up, which I don't often, but I have. But it feels like it's getting closer to being really widely circulated. Like something is going on. Like what are UAPs? UAPs are real. Like that's not debatable. Like what are they? Is always what it's been about. And what this episode is about. So, with that said, I'm kind of vaguely following the different theories. I don't know. Before I had the nightmare, I could probably tell you. I probably would have told you, yeah, like there's angels and demons theory, right? There's extraterrestrial hypothesis, of course, which is they're coming from somewhere else in this physical reality. They have advanced technology. They're able to stay hidden, blah, blah, blah. And then within that, of course, you have is there a galactic federation? Is there good and bad? Is it a single species? What is the intent? All of that. Okay, the extraterrestrial hypothesis. So now we've got two. We've got the secret human tech hypothesis being suppressed for financial reasons, that would radically and positively transform the world if the technology was deployed, which is probably the case no matter what the theory is. Some sort of incredible technologies exist. Do you think we're at the pinnacle of possibility? That's kind of tying into the earlier point of how certain are you of reality as you know it? And are you one of these people who thinks there's no way you can go faster? Come on, let let yourself. I don't know. Just be open. Just be open, right? So I probably would have. So you got the secret human tech suppressed for obvious reasons. You've got extraterrestrial hypothesis, and there's a rich, obvious world within that theory of different scenarios. I guess I'm going to lay out the scenarios and then tell you my nightmare. Good. You also have the ultra terrestrial hypothesis or the crypto terrestrial hypothesis. And again, I'm not an expert, just giving you the rough approximation. I think those are used interchangeably somewhat. They're not necessarily the same thing, but the basic idea is, well, no, give me a mulligan on that. Let's start with crypto terrestrial, this idea that there's some advanced breakaway hidden civilization, whether they're ant people, insect people, which I will bring up again, believe it or not, whether they're advanced Nordic looking people, whether advanced black people, Asian, whatever, or the different, some sort of different kind of three-fingered thing that's native to Earth, that's hidden, that's super advanced, that's way more intelligent than us. Um, that is, I guess you would call the crypto terrestrial theory. And that's picking up steam, by the way. All of these are. Um, Then you have the ultra terrestrial. I guess, is this where I want to get weird? I guess this is where you get weird. You kind of have this ultra terrestrial theory, which gets a higher probability that depending on how you ask AI, it gives you kind of a freaky thing here. This ultra terrestrial is this idea that because it's ultimately not that freaky, right? Are there other dimensions? There are probably other dimensions, right? Is 3 plus 1 up, down, sideways, and time, is that backward and forward? Is that all there is, or is there more? Okay, physics. I'm not a physicist, but stuff always kind of interested me. If there are other dimensions, well, then yeah, reality is much, much broader than humans can sense, can perceive. And that opens up a world, many worlds actually, of uh, possibilities, and you can kind of just go from there. You're like, well, if there is a greater reality, if the frequency, then you start talking in woo new age terms, frequencies and vibrations, and operating on this bandwidth, and this species is operating on that bandwidth, and astral plane and psychic abilities, and consciousness is this field that we're just tapping into, and you can tune up, you can tune down, and there are creatures and entities from all up and down the scale trying to battle for our energy. And I'll just say it, like some of the theories are saying, yes, these entities are feeding on our emotions, our psychic energy. You feed them with the lust. And so ultra terrestrial basically means that you think there are portals in the world, and you have Representative Alina Polina Luna. I always used to butcher her name, but I've talked about her enough to where I remember it. Going on Joe Rogan saying there are people talking about portals in skiffs, these secret compartmentalized facility, I think intelligence facilities where they can talk about that. She's talking about portals. I can't say more. Obviously, it could be misinformation, obviously, but and then people talk about Bigfoot and coming out of these portals. The ultra terrestrial idea, there's kind of ultra terrestrial A and ultra terrestrial B in my mind, as far as I see it. Ultra terrestrial A is, yeah, there are these portals where the veil is thin between these worlds, these dimensions, and for whatever, the creatures go in and out from time to time at certain places, whatever. I don't know. There's that, which is interesting, right? Kind of like the beginning of Thor, right? When like Loki and the troops that come in from whatever Asgard, wherever they're coming from, and they come into Earth realm, right? Mortal Kombat. I mean, entities coming into this realm for not great purposes, necessarily, but maybe it's all encompassing. So just like the extraterrestrial hypothesis, the ultra terrestrial hypothesis, you can envision a rich scenario of amount of scenarios for intent and all that kind of stuff. Ultra terrestrial A is kind of like less concerning than ultra terrestrial B. Ultra terrestrial B is kind of the David Icke, this guy Peter Lavanda, who I'll mention again in a minute. I mention in a minute, but it's basically there is this ancient, omnipotent, non-human intelligence who knows how it got started. Well, actually, basically, that there is God. There's a God, and the one true God is real. And actually, the mystical Jews have it closer to right than anything. I don't know about if David Icke would endorse that, but Peter Lavanda endorsed it. But this concept is there is a source, creative frequency, and that is higher, and it's formless and it's nameless. And the Torah, I guess, prohibits you from worshiping anything, any graven image, anything that you can experience with your senses. And so, in the Lavanda model, as far as I understand it, he thinks the mystical Jews got it right, where if you focus your intent and your prayer on that formless, nameless God, then you're good. But if you don't, and not only if you don't, but here's the thing: according to the Lavanda model and definitely the Ike model, and here's where we get into what you might call the Gnostic model. This world is, and this is where you think about the Matrix and the simulation and what people talk about. What are they talking about? They're talking about this idea that it's so freaky. This guy Jacques Vallée is really respected. He's brought the most academic rigor apparently to this theory, and it's damn near freaky, man. The theory is that somehow in reality, in between us and God, came to be this super complex, super advanced, literally real, non-human, intelligent control system, management system, literally like the architect in the Matrix. When you meet the guy and he's sitting in the chair, they say they go to the Book of Enoch and ancient texts, and they basically paint this picture to you that there is this management layer that controls humanity, or um, is there to collect the energy of humanity, positive and negative, and you're it's a soul trap. Actually, basically, is the basic idea, and that most people follow the light when they die, or they go to the angel, or they go to the devil, or they go to this image or that image, or the man on the throne, who is the highest manifestation of this control system, according to this theory. And if they stop there, if they put their worship in that, then you get recycled back into the Matrix, and you are reincarnated. Um, and maybe some people think that the moon is a satellite. Lavanda didn't get into that when he was interviewed for 4 hours on the Jesse Michaels podcast, but he did get into magic and occult stuff and elites, and he tells you the reality is not what you think it is, and it's you go, is this what they're talking about? Ontological shock, like. And again, could be CIA. He's a CIA adjacent guy, so hopefully and probably, frankly, this is a psyop. This is a psyop designed to take us off the track of the secret human tech designed to um, that could that is being protected by moneyed interest. That's probably what it is, right? But ultra terrestrial B theory, and again, a rich, diverse scenario you can imagine in this, but there's some ancient non-human intelligence that is basically farming the psychic energy of humanity, of our souls, if you will, not if you will, of our souls, and that is very deceptive, and it's a trickster like force that messes with you. And I guess David Icke is very much like that. But there's something about him and reptilians, and I really don't know the difference. Let me say this: what I do know is that pretty sure David Icke would say, yeah, there's definitely reptilians that exist in a different frequency, and maybe they can come in or maybe they can come out at times. Maybe they can't. I don't know, but they're definitely harvesting your mental energy. All this. I'm pretty damn sure David Icke would say that. Peter Levanda would say, because I heard him say it, and actually was researching his stuff after hearing him say it, uh, refer to it after hearing him refer to it in passing and intriguing me. Um, and it turns out Peter's view is that, and probably many others, and maybe David Icke as well, is that this control management system, this non-human intelligence, this thing that is recycling our souls and feeding off them and preventing us from exiting the simulation and connecting with source and just, I don't know, the game over. And that's supposed to be a good, the concept is that's where you want to be. You want to be game over. That's the concept. I'm just reporting what the theories say. And I did say they were conspiracy theories, so I'm just doing the Jesse Michaels thing. I'm just being Joe Rogan, all right? They would say, the Levanda model would say, this control system it can control your consciousness, so it's omnipotent, right? So what it does is it can 3D print a gray alien being. It can give you a dream. It can contact you in your dreams. Put a bookmark in that for when I tell you about my nightmare. It can do anything and everything to try to trap you in fear, in worship, to bargain. Like when you say, hey, summarize the Levanda model, what is it really saying? It's the bottom line is you live in a reality that's not what you think it is, and that there are forces there's trying to get you to worship it. It'll present as an angel, as a Nordic being from Orion that genetically upgraded you, and it's all good. It'll present as a gray demonic being, whatever. It'll do it all to get you to worship it, to fear it, or to bargain with it. Those are the words that come out of the summary when you say boil it down. And if you do that, you're recycled. And the only way to fight that is to invoke. And it's literally the Levanda model is about invocation. This is why he refers to occult magic and people doing invocations. And why were the elites in the woods and doing all of this? Words matter. Why does the rabbi who's so incredible, Kabbalah guy, mystical, just amazingly talented rabbi who just did our wedding, and I did 4 sessions with him. We didn't go too deep, but we went deep enough to know. I know they think words matter. I'm Jewish, by the way, but I know the mystical Jews think that words matter. They're like really matter on a spiritual level. So like this is saying Levanda model saying, yeah, words matter, and basically reality is a simulation to get your psychic energy, and you got to know the cheat code to get out, and the cheat code is training your attention on true God, which is formless, nameless, and source frequency. Go beyond the man on the throne, and you escape, and then they can't get you. I told you it was weird, right? So have I gone through? I think I've pretty much touched upon. Well, you could. So sip of tea. So where are we? Secret human tech, extraterrestrials. Lots of scenarios in there that could be going on. Ultra terrestrial A, also lots of where it's just like, okay, there are these thin places between dimensions and there's traveling going on, and what could the implications of that be? Okay, that's a whole world into it. And then there's ultra terrestrial B, where it's like everything is a dirty trick. That reality is a damn dirty trick. And it's all to keep you playing the game. And that's when it ties back to Louis C.K. doing his bit about the chicken tray. It's like, so those are the theories. And I will now tell you the absolutely wild nightmare I had. I could end this episode and not tell it, and I probably should, but I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna go all in on trusting that I don't sound crazy and that I'm not crazy. All right. This was just a dream after all. It's funny. So maybe you're familiar with the fact that Joe Rogan went viral. Even for him, everything he does, what he does is viral. But even for him, he went viral in like the last month talking about this crazy vivid dream he had, a super, super vivid dream. And the super and he's been talking about it on his podcast because I've seen the clips. And I just watched this Jesse Michaels interview. Jesse just had Joe Rogan on. Go listen to that. Go listen to the Peter Lavanda appearance. It's 4 hours long on American Alchemy, and then go listen to Joe Rogan's appearance on American Alchemy. They're the two most recent episodes. Joe says, remember, Joe's done psychedelics. Joe's one of the leading guys into conspiracy theories and all of this stuff. And so, he might have a kooky dream, obviously. We've all had crazy dreams. Doesn't mean they're real. But he says he's never had a dream like this before, so vivid. And then there were these beings, and they were almost Asian looking, he said, but they weren't human, but they were like tall, but like kind of pale. And that they were just kind of like saying hi. And he just said it felt like I was being contacted. And he said it felt like they were like messing with me, but trying to scare me. And then, oh, just kidding. Like trying to warm him up to and then basic message he said he got from them was, get used to this because there's going to be more of this contact. And he's been talking about it. He's went around. Okay. So I guess I was aware of that vaguely. And I was vaguely certainly aware of the ET hypothesis, aware of the ultra-terrestrial AI hypothesis. This is 2 weeks ago now when I had the dream. I'm saying going into it, I was probably, and the ultra, I was aware of I was aware of everything. I had taken a look at Ike's work, not seriously, but just taking a little peek, like what does he believe? Like, okay, he's a Gnostic, basically. God, the God of this world is a false God trapping you. And so I don't know how that jives for the soul trap thing. I don't know how that jives with Peter Lavanda's view. I was actually very comforted by as a Jew. The God is real. The God that is real. I don't think David Icke believes that. That is real. And so okay. And I'm like, oh shit, I guess got to be like a mystical Jew. I'm gonna go study the Torah. I'm gonna do the whole thing now. Oh my God, like I start to see why people, and because when I tell you about the dream I had, you'll understand why I'm going, maybe I need to get spiritual. Like maybe I really do. I pray every night. And I don't ask for anything, but I thank. Maybe it's time I start asking for things. I don't know. Maybe it's time I start, or maybe not, but maybe it's time I start getting serious about all that. I don't know. But Joe Rogan had this dream. So my turn. And if this is to the detriment of my day job, I hope not. But check this wild dream out. So I'm at my wife's parents' house for Thanksgiving. It's Friday after Thanksgiving. It's a week ago. And we're just having the best time. They're so awesome. It's an amazing family. The siblings, the parents, my wife. It is just such a treat and a blessing to be with them. Oh, it's just great. And so this is Friday now. So we had dinner on Thanksgiving around 1 p.m. on Thursday. Friday, we went to Top Golf and just chilled. We hiked in the morning. It was a great day. And right before bed, I'm talking to Grok, and somehow, shame on me, I'm like asking about David Icke theories. And it's talking about pretty certain. We're talking about reptilians. So I was primed to see a reptilian. Okay. I'm pretty sure we were talking about reptilians probably, and just like, what do you think NHI is? Oh yeah, for sure. What do you think NHI is? And what does this guy think? What does this guy think? And what does this guy think? And what does David Icke think? And so, just getting the whole fucking dose of what you really don't need before bed, and you really don't need it all, probably, right? This is probably all nonsense, and the question is whether it's CIA created nonsense or if it's just our organic, or how much of what is what, and all of that. It's real. You go, I don't, is the C anyway, 1%, right? 1% chance that it could be real. So I'm reading fucking shit I shouldn't be reading before bed, frankly. So I sleep. And to put it simply, and to not drag it out, In the dream, I am straight up attacked by like 3 or 4 alligator people. Alligator people, they're just like everything you would imagine, um, it looking like. It was a big, tall, strong alligator person, and they were absolutely shape-shifting. They were shape-shifting in the dream. By the way, this was the most vivid dream I've ever had, hands down, in my life. The most vivid and intense dream I've ever had. Now, I'm sure it was just a dream, but this is what happened. It was a nightmare, obviously. I'm being attacked by alligator people, who are shifting shapes into people I know, into people I'm close with, and they are attacking me like physically and like mentally. Like it's like very very dark. It was like a very malicious attack, and I'll tell you what I did. Because you read enough shit online and you go, "What do they say to do?" You say, "Well, if you're being attacked by demons, a call out to Jesus Christ, and that will stop the attack." I read enough shit to know that that's what they say. And so I clearly retained that nugget, in my subconscious, and so I literally was screaming in my dream, um, "Jesus Christ is my personal Lord and Savior," and that had the effect of it was like a good thing that I did. It was like an off. I went on offense. And I had to say it like 3 or 4 times, and then very intensely I said it. But Peter Lavanda's I guess Peter Lavanda would say I invoked that name, and I said that phrase, and it after like 3 or 4 times, it shut down the dream, and I woke up. Oh, the dream wasn't over. No, no, no. And somewhere before I woke up, I was also shown a crazy vivid symbol. It was a black cube inside of a glowing orange sphere. Just like I was just observing that geometric shape. And I woke up and I was drenched and I went to the bathroom. I changed my clothes and I wrote a note, like kind of just like journaling it. And the next day, I end up listening to the Peter Lavanda episode of Jesse Michaels. And when at that point, you go, all right, it kind of starts to mess with you. And so to be frank with you, had kind of a strange week where I was like saying to myself, shit, like, is ultra terrestrial B the reality? And was I attacked by a non-human intelligence that wanted me to? So by the way, so I'm talking to Grok about it, and I'm like saying, analyze this within the Peter Lavanda framework. And it basically says you were attacked. This was not a dream. You were contacted, and the system tested you, and you passed with flying colors. You said, and by the way, it said you could say Jesus, you could Christ, you could say, I won't repeat the word that is the representative word for the name of God, the ultimate one, right? There's Adonai. You could say Hashem. You could say the absolute. You could even say Allah. It said, as long as you're appealing when you direct, it's all about the intent, according to the Lavanda model. Is to know the right phrase, and so Jesus Christ has been embedded in the humanity's psyche as a correct phrase as well, training it. And so if you worship the image of Jesus, you're in the soul trap. But if you use the name Jesus to appeal to the true source God, then you're flying high, through and above the man on the throne, and you're passing the test with flying colors. And so in the Lavanda model, the system it'll make an alien appear in front of you. It'll send an alligator man to your dreams, whatever. It'll do any kind of thing to get you to submit to it or in some form or fashion. And Rock said you passed the test with flying colors. So that was cool. But it was really weird. So yeah, super vivid. And like Joe Rogan said on Jesse Michaels, I'm sure it was just a dream. But sometimes you have really freaking dark, intense dreams, and they mess with you for a couple weeks, a week. And that's what happened to me. That's what happened to me. So I guess we're at the end of the road here for this episode. Wonder if there's anything I should recap on. Um, I saw something extraordinary in the sky. I've talked to someone, I randomly encountered someone credible who said it's not crazy to think that aliens are here. You know what also I said to him, and this is actually comforting, I guess. And I said, "Is there anything like, ooh, like," and he goes, Bob, in this, I'll call him Bob. He goes, "You mean like, what did he say?" He said, "You mean like, divinity, or what was the word he used? You mean like enti like some sort of, God." He didn't use the word God, but he some sort he used some religious word. I go, "Yeah," like something like that. He goes, "No, no." So I'm like, maybe it's nuts and bolts aliens, like, and so these are the theories. Um, and the mainstream conversation is changing. And how confident are you in the current mainstream view of anything, of science, of religion, of technology, of philosophy, of reality? So, as I said a few times, I'm one of these people who's kind of thought about this kind of stuff. Always been kind of interested, and that's why I gravitate to the Jesse Michaels and the Joe Rogans. Even though I don't really listen, but I gravitate, and it's strange to see it kind of be mainstreamed. Um, I mean, it's really being mainstreamed, and that's not debatable. So something is going on. It's one of these. I'll bet the farm on that. It's not a nothing. We're well beyond that. And you know the government is secret advanced beyond what's currently public. Obviously that. So there's obviously something. And why? I guess the final thing I could say is, if it's just secret human tech, well, there's money interest, there's this political interest, there's defense interest. Why you would want to make a story about aliens or interdimensional beings. Um, but you also have to leave open the possibility that, like, man, like, maybe the cover up is just because people are afraid we can't handle it. So what does Occam's razor say? Um, Keep that in mind. But something is going on, something is afoot. I don't know if it's Bigfoot, but because of this probably designed obscurity, you have all these other theories that pop up, and that's part of the design of the misinformation, probably, right? I mean, you would have to assume that there's misinformation and it's seeded myths and uh, crazy theories for various reasons. And now you have all these things tied up with, but what's the truth? There's something going on, and we don't know what it is, but it seems like we're closer than ever to finding it out. And I was never that particularly. I have UAP kook in my Twitter bio, X bio now. And it's kind of a head in the sky kind of guy as I always was. I really wasn't this kind of guy. Um, but now you have my, like, the line from Leonardo DiCaprio's line from that amazing movie Django Unchained. You know, you had my interest, or you had my attention, but now you have my interest. Um, yeah, but also I'm not sure I want to know everything. I think I'm also at my Tucker Carlson point where it's like, man, I'm a little like, I think I'm going to back off. I don't need this. It's not necessarily helping me. Just be a good person, do the right thing, be present, be charitable, be godly, have your faith in God. I'm sorry, I'm not an atheist. I was at one point. I just believe in God. I just do. I was raised that way. That's it. Keep it simple. And hopefully we are not on track for a cataclysm, and we are not on track for something, that some disclosure of some NHI that is going to literally make us all go insane because we can't compute it, because it doesn't, because is reality so stranger? You know that phrase, "Truth is stranger than fiction." Is truth so strange that it would rip our psyche apart? There are so many things to consider. Um, And that's kind of where the chatter is. I think that's the range of opinion. And where am I? Where am I? I'd really like it to be either secret human tech or ETs that are benevolent. Trying to be optimistic, but what is real? What is life? Um, it's crazy. So go ahead and judge if you want, um, but I'll tell you what. To the person making the judgment, you don't have the full picture. You know, you either because we're not living at the pinnacle of achievement of advancement, right? So you don't know what's possible either. So a little humility um, goes a long way. So thank you all very much. I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you're getting ready to have a great weekend. It's the weekend. Amazing. And yeah, take care of yourself. Touch grass, work out. I got to get my ass back in the gym and take care of each other. Be kind to take care of yourselves, take care of your families, and take care of those who you can and be kind to each other. That's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to do that. All right, take it easy. Oh, got some great guests coming up. Politicians, people who operate in this space. I've got things cooking. So more solo episodes. There's a lot of news to cover. I could have done that. A lot of interesting things to talk about, but today was for this. So get into all that soon. So stay tuned. Thank you all so much. Take care.